The sky wasn't cracking, it was opening. The countdown from video 6 had reached 0. The second gravitational pulse had been transmitted. For a full 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every satellite above North America shifted orbit by exactly 0.003 degrees. Simultaneously, Ethan Carter didn't breathe. "That's not possible," he whispered. In Nevada's underground control facility, the emergency lights painted the room in red. The pulse had been meant to push a controlled distortion into deep space, a signal aimed at whatever had answered them. Instead, something pushed back. The distortion didn't travel outward, it folded inward. Lena Morales gripped the edge of the console as new telemetry flooded the monitors. The gravitational wave wasn't expanding anymore, it was hovering, suspended above Earth's upper atmosphere like an invisible lens. And it was growing. Across the globe, civilians began uploading strange footage. The night sky looked warped. Stars stretched like reflections on rippling water. Airplane navigation systems failed. Compasses spun uselessly. "This isn't solar interference," Ethan muttered. "It's localized." Localized, centered directly over the United States. On the main display, a live satellite feed flickered back online for exactly 2 seconds. Long enough to show it. A circular distortion, miles wide, bending light around its edges. Not a ship. Not an object. A tear. Lena's throat tightened. "We didn't send a message." "We knocked," Ethan replied, and something opened the door. The facility trembled as power grids across the western states began destabilizing. Rolling blackouts spread city to city. Military channels went encrypted. Fighter jets were scrambled, but their targeting systems glitched when approaching the distortion zone. Then the signal returned. Not from deep space, from inside the anomaly. The waveform was stronger now, cleaner, intentional. Ethan isolated the pattern and converted it into visible frames like before. The first frame, Earth intact. The second frame, Earth, fractured by glowing fault lines. The third frame, darkness swallowing continents. Same future warning. But this time there was an addition, a human silhouette standing beneath the sky tier. Coordinates flashed beneath it, Nevada, directly above their facility. Lena stepped back slowly. "It's not random. It knows where we are," Ethan finished. As if on cue, the distortion pulsed. Every device in the building shut off. Total silence. Then a low vibration passed through the structure, not like an earthquake, but like reality itself shifting alignment. Emergency generators kicked in. One monitor reactivated automatically. Text appeared. Containment failed. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. Containment of what? It was counting up. Doreen Sangert Voicefiner. 000 Sun. 0 Wadere. Something had crossed over, and it was no longer waiting for humanity to act. High above, inside the widening tear in the sky, something was beginning to step through. It wasn't coming through fast, it was calibrating. The counter kept rising. 0 0 Whatever had crossed into Earth's space wasn't rushing, it was stabilizing. Ethan's hands moved across the console, rerouting power, forcing satellite feeds back online. One drone camera near the Nevada impact zone flickered to life. The desert was wrong, not destroyed. Rewritten. A perfect circular section nearly a mile wide had changed color. Sand replaced by a smooth, dark surface that reflected starlight like black glass. No crater, no debris. Just replacement. Lena leaned closer. Zoom. At the center of the altered zone stood a structure that hadn't existed 12 minutes ago. Tall, narrow, metallic, but not metal. Its surface shifted subtly like liquid frozen mid-motion. No seams, no visible entry. "It built something," Ethan whispered. "No," Lena corrected. "It's building." The structure pulsed once. Across the globe, seismic sensors trembled in response. Tiny ripples, mathematical, intentional. Back in orbit, 3 more satellites vanished from tracking. Not destroyed, just gone. The anomaly above intensified, its circular edge sharpening. Lightning-like arcs of gravitational energy danced across the tear. Military command broke radio silence. A single encrypted message appeared on Ethan's secure screen. Authorized response protocol green-lighted. He felt cold. "That means nuclear contingency," he said quietly. Lena didn't look away from the desert feed. "If they fire into that, we could destabilize the entire gravitational field." On screen, the structure shifted again. Panels unfolded from its sides, not physically separating, but phasing outward like overlapping dimensions sliding apart. The black glass surface around it began to ripple. Then something moved beneath it, a shape, massive, not fully visible, like looking at something through deep water. Its outline distorted space around it. Ethan swallowed. It's not a building. The structure was an anchor, a stabilizer for something larger. The signal returned, blasting through every frequency simultaneously. Monitors overloaded with data. Instead of warnings this time, a clear transmission decoded automatically, as if the sender wanted it understood. A star map appeared, but not of our galaxy. Lena's breath slowed. That's not the Milky Way. Ethan overlaid astronomical databases. No match. The map zoomed inward automatically, focusing on one specific star system, then shifted to our solar system. A line connected the two. A bridge. The final image replaced everything. Earth seen from space, overlaid with a geometric grid. Phase 1 complete. The counter climbed higher. 0712. 0007 007 Lena's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. This isn't an invasion. Ethan stared at the glowing column piercing the sky. No. It's infrastructure. Outside, the tier widened further, and something on the other side was preparing to make Earth compatible. The sky didn't split wider. It aligned. The pale column connecting the Nevada structure to the anomaly intensified, steady and surgical. It wasn't energy in the violent sense. It was precision, like a data cable locking into place between worlds. Across North America, electronics failed in expanding rings, not burned, disabled. Cars stalled on highways. Aircraft switched to manual control. Financial networks froze mid-transaction. Ethan forced another satellite uplink. The black glass field in the desert had expanded silently, now nearly 3 miles across. The surface reflected nothing anymore. It absorbed light. At the center, the towering structure unfolded further. Its outer layer peeled back in thin, shifting segments, revealing something rotating inside. Not mechanical. Organic geometry. Curved forms intersecting at impossible angles, phasing slightly out of sync with visible space. It's not building for us, Lena whispered. The ground beneath the facility vibrated, not shaking but humming. A frequency too low to hear, yet strong enough to press against the lungs. The counter climbed. 0003, redundant books here. Military command transmitted again. Fragmented, panicked. Missiles had been authorized. Ethan's eyes widened. If they detonate near that column. A flash filled the satellite feed. High above the desert, a defensive burst intercepted the missile mid-flight. No explosion. The warhead disassembled mid-air, reduced to drifting fragments like dust in zero gravity. It's controlling inertia, Ethan breathed. The anomaly pulsed in response. New data flooded the screens. Global tectonic sensors registered micro-adjustments along fault lines, tiny shifts measured in millimeters. The planet itself was being recalibrated. On screen, the alien star map returned, this time overlaid with Earth's rotational axis. A slight tilt appeared, projected forward. If completed, Earth's orbit would shift by their terraforming, without touching the surface. The Nevada structure emitted a deep glow from within its rotating core. The black surface around it liquefied, revealing movement beneath. The massive shape seen earlier rose closer to the surface, still obscured, but unmistakably vast. Its outline bent light like gravity given form. The transmission updated again, clearer now. Environmental adaptation in progress. Ethan felt something colder than fear. This wasn't conquest. It was replacement. Another satellite vanished, then another. Each disappearance synced perfectly with pulses from the structure. The counter continued upward. 0.27. Lena stared at the rising numbers. They're not counting time. Ethan's voice dropped. They're counting stabilization. Outside, the tear in the sky stopped expanding. It locked into a perfect circle. Stable. Permanent. The humming beneath the facility intensified, harmonizing with the column of light, and deep under the black surface in Nevada, something enormous shifted position, ready to emerge. It wasn't emerging to attack. It was arriving to stay. The humming beneath the facility deepened into a steady vibration that pressed against Ethan's chest like invisible gravity. Dust drifted from the ceiling in thin streams. On the satellite feed, the dark surface in Nevada split open in a slow, perfect circle. No explosion, no force, just controlled separation. From below, the massive shape finally became visible. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a ship. It was structure layered upon structure. Enormous curved planes folding outward, interlocking into a rotating lattice that rose silently from beneath the black glass field. Miles wide, light bent around it unnaturally, like space hesitated to define its edges. Lena's voice was barely audible. "That's not a landing." Ethan stared at the data scrolling beside the image. It was always here. Seismic readings confirmed it. The object hadn't fallen from the sky. It had materialized below ground the moment the column connected, phased into Earth's crust without displacement. The Nevada anchor tower pulsed again, synchronizing with the rising lattice. Arcs of pale light traveled along its curved surfaces, mapping invisible grids into the air. Across the globe, atmospheric pressure shifted slightly, barely noticeable to humans, but enough to trigger storm systems along coastlines. Weather patterns began reorganizing. The transmission updated. A rotating model of Earth appeared with new parameters overlaid. Oxygen density adjusted by fractions, magnetic field strength increasing incrementally. They weren't destroying the planet. They were tuning it. Military command transmitted one final directive. Full strike authorized. Multiple missile trails appeared on screen, coordinated from land and sea. Ethan felt a flicker of desperate hope. The anomaly reacted instantly. The tear in the sky pulsed once, and every missile froze mid-air. Not slowed, frozen. Then, as if rewound by an unseen hand, they reversed trajectory, returning to their launch sites before dropping harmlessly into the ocean and desert. Silence filled the control room. Lena exhaled shakily. "We can't fight physics rewritten in real time." The counter climbed higher. Tritación 22. 53. The massive lattice structure locked into position above the desert, hovering without visible support. Its lower sections extended downward, touching the black surface and dissolving into it. Integration. Around the world, auroras began appearing at latitudes that had never seen them before. Shimmering waves of unfamiliar color. Ethan's main monitor flickered again. Complete silence. For half a second, everything felt normal. Then gravity shifted slightly sideways, not enough to knock anyone down, just enough to prove control. Lena looked at Ethan, fear finally breaking through. "They're not invading Earth." He swallowed hard. "They're converting it." Above Nevada, the rotating lattice brightened, and for the first time, something inside it looked down. Gravity didn't increase, it chose a direction. The sideways pull lasted only 2 seconds, but it was enough. Loose chairs slid across the control room floor. Coffee spilled in a perfectly angled line. Every person inside the facility instinctively grabbed for something stable, even though nothing had truly collapsed. Then gravity snapped back to normal. Ethan's breathing turned shallow. "They're mapping resistance," he said, "testing how much adjustment the planet can tolerate." Outside, the massive lattice hovering above Nevada rotated 1 degree further. Its inner core flared with cold blue-white light, not heat. Alignment. Across the globe, reports flooded emergency networks. Tides along the Pacific coastline surged unnaturally high, then receded without flooding. Satellites that had gone dark reappeared, but now orbiting in slightly altered paths. Controlled correction. Lena monitored atmospheric composition models. Oxygen density had shifted again, only by 0.4%. Not enough for panic. Enough for long-term change. On the central display, Earth's holographic model updated in real time. Magnetic field strength increased by another fraction. Radiation levels in low orbit began dropping. "It's shielding the planet," Lena said quietly. Ethan stared at the numbers. "No," he corrected. "It's adjusting it for something else." The transmission returned, stronger, clearer than before. This time there were no images of destruction, no warnings, just a single visual. The alien star system from earlier, then Earth beside it, side by side. Atmospheric compositions compared. Gravitational constants compared. Temperature ranges overlaid. The two profiles slowly moved toward synchronization. The counter kept rising. 03311. 02312. Outside, auroras intensified, stretching across continents. Colors unseen in human history painted the sky. Deep violet, silver green, luminous blue. Panic filled major cities, but something else spread too. Silence. The sense that resistance no longer mattered. Suddenly, the Nevada lattice shifted again. Its upper segments unfolded outward like massive petals, revealing a central void. Perfectly circular, perfectly dark. Not absence, depth. Sensors spiked. Energy readings from within that void surpassed anything recorded in human history. Lena's voice trembled for the first time. "That's not a weapon." Ethan didn't answer. because something was moving inside the darkness, slowly, a silhouette forming, far larger than the lattice itself. Its outline bent space like the horizon seen through heat distortion. The environment. They're bringing a civilization. The void inside the lattice brightened faintly, outlining structures beyond it. Towers, spires, geometry that extended far past the tear in the sky. The bridge wasn't temporary. It was permanent infrastructure. Above Earth, the anomaly stabilized into perfect symmetry, and within the dark opening over Nevada, something vast began its first deliberate step forward. It didn't step out of the void stepped around it. The darkness inside the lattice thickened, compressing like liquid shadow folding inward. Light from the auroras bent toward the opening, drawn into the circular depth without resistance. Then the silhouette sharpened, not solid, layered, a towering vertical form composed of intersecting planes of faint light, thousands of translucent surfaces sliding across one another in silent coordination. It did not move like a body. It resolved like data finishing a render. Ethan's console exploded with readings. Mass fluctuating, density undefined, temperature irrelevant. It's not fully physical, he said. Lena stared at the satellite feed. It's choosing how to exist. The structure descended slowly into Earth's atmosphere without friction. Air didn't burn. No sonic boom followed. Clouds parted smoothly around it, rearranging like programmed particles. Across the globe, electronic systems powered back on, but altered. Clocks desynchronized by milliseconds, GPS recalculated, power grids stabilized beyond previous efficiency. Optimization. The counter climbed. 0.3. The massive presence hovered above the Nevada lattice. The anchor beneath it glowed brighter, syncing with the entity's layered geometry. A new transmission cut across every device simultaneously. Phones, car radios, televisions, military frequencies. Not audio, not image, understanding. For a fraction of a second, every human mind on Earth felt the same abstract impression. Transition, not extinction. The sensation vanished as quickly as it arrived. People collapsed in streets. Pilots struggled to maintain control. Operators inside the Nevada facility dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by the cognitive pressure. Ethan gripped his desk, heart racing. It communicated without language. Lena's eyes were wet but focused. It doesn't see us as enemies. On screen, Earth's atmospheric model shifted again. Carbon levels began dropping subtly. Ocean temperatures recalibrated by tenths of a degree. Global storms reorganized into symmetrical patterns. The entity extended one luminous plane downward toward the lattice anchor. When it connected, a pulse radiated outward, not destructive. Transformative. Every aurora intensified at once, forming faint geometric lines across the sky, invisible grids linking continents. Habitat stabilization, 27%. 27%. Entire ecosystems were being adjusted in real time. Ethan overlaid astronomical data. The alien star system and Earth were now only 18% different in environmental compatibility. The void above widened slightly, revealing more. And across Earth, something ancient within the planet itself responded. Tectonic frequencies harmonizing with the alien lattice, not resisting, adapting. Inside the widening tear in the sky, more structures began to move forward. Humanity had sent a signal into the dark, and now the dark was redesigning the world to answer permanently. The planet didn't scream, it synchronized. The second pulse from the entity spread deeper than the first. This time it wasn't visible in the sky. It was felt in the ground. Across continents, seismic monitors showed perfect harmonic waves moving through Earth's mantle. Not chaotic tremors, but organized frequencies. Fault lines that had been locked for centuries released pressure in controlled microslips. Earthquakes prevented before they could exist. Ethan stared at the live geodata in disbelief. It's stabilizing tectonic stress. Lena nodded slowly. It's removing unpredictability. Above Nevada, the towering layered presence rotated again, and thin beams of pale light extended outward from the lattice, not striking cities, not targeting populations, but touching key geological points, oceanic ridges, subduction zones, volcanic hotspots. Each contact point glowed briefly, then calmed. The counter climbed. 0.36 0.36. The atmospheric recalibration accelerated. Oxygen levels rose another fraction. Polluted regions over major industrial zones visibly thinned on satellite overlays. For the first time since the anomaly opened, global panic feeds began slowing. Because nothing was exploding. Nothing was burning. The world wasn't ending. It was being corrected. A new transmission manifested on every operational screen inside the facility. Not images, not words. A simulation. Earth. Current state. Earth. Projected state after 100% stabilization. The second image showed clearer oceans. Balanced climates. No polar instability. No drought corridors. Lena's voice barely carried. It's repairing damage we caused. Ethan felt a chill. At what cost? As if in answer, the simulation zoomed further. Human infrastructure began fading in projected zones. Coastlines reshaped slightly. Several dense urban areas marked in red, not destroyed but flagged. Optimization required space. Above, the void inside the lattice widened once more. Additional structures became visible beyond. Vast geometric frameworks waiting for full transfer. The entity hovering over Nevada extended multiple luminous planes downward into the black surface below. The ground rippled outward in concentric circles, not breaking apart, but reformatting. Sensors detected underground cavities forming in perfect symmetry beneath the desert. Foundations. Habitat stabilization, 34%. 34%. Ethan's terminal displayed another update, this one more precise. Biological compatibility. Adjustment initiated. Lena's eyes widened. That's us. Across medical monitoring systems worldwide, minor changes registered. Heart rates stabilized. Respiratory efficiency improved by, at 100%, Earth and the alien star system shared nearly identical environmental constants. A dual habitat world. The layered entity above shifted again, and for the first time a faint secondary silhouette moved behind it in the void. More were coming, and this time Earth wasn't resisting. It was making room. The sky was no longer above us, it had layers. At 34% stabilization, the changes became visible to the naked eye. The air felt denser, not heavier, just cleaner. Sounds carried slightly farther. Distant city noise traveled with unnatural clarity across open terrain. Ethan monitored biometric feeds streaming from hospitals nationwide. Blood oxygen levels had increased subtly across populations. Minor respiratory conditions showed immediate improvement. Lena exhaled slowly. It's optimizing human biology too. But not for our benefit, Ethan replied. On the main display, the projection updated again. Urban centers previously marked in red began flashing. Not destruction zones, reallocation zones. Above Nevada, the second silhouette in the void stepped forward slightly. Smaller than the first entity, but still colossal. Its geometry differed. Sharper angles, denser light layers. Specialization. The lattice anchor below expanded outward another mile, seamlessly integrating into surrounding desert. Beneath it, subterranean structures were forming in concentric rings, foundations for something vast enough to support an entire ecosystem. The counter advanced. Ladder 4312, 043. A new planetary overlay appeared. Human adaptive window, open. Ethan froze. That means we're being measured. Across social networks, reports spread of brief shared sensations. Moments where strangers felt synchronized emotions for seconds at a time. Not forced. Aligned. The primary entity above rotated toward the Atlantic. Thin lines of pale light extended from its frame, reaching across continents, linking major population centers in faint geometric paths only visible from orbit. Grid expansion. Lena pulled up orbital scans. The tear in the sky was no longer just a portal. It had depth layers now, like stacked atmospheres merging. Stars behind it appeared displaced. Reality was overlapping. Habitat stabilization, 41%. 41%. The ground beneath the facility vibrated once more, but softer than before. Controlled. Ethan zoomed into the global compatibility model. At 50%, several coastal regions would need restructuring, not destroyed. Reshaped. He looked at Lena, voice quieter than ever. It's not asking permission. Outside, the auroras intensified again, forming faint vertical patterns stretching upward into the layered sky. And within the void, multiple silhouettes were now visible, waiting for the next phase. Earth wasn't under attack, it was under revision, and humanity had just entered its adaptive window. Adaptation wasn't optional, it was already happening. At 41%, the changes stopped feeling atmospheric. They became personal. Hospitals across the world reported identical anomalies, immune responses strengthening without external triggers. Chronic inflammation markers dropping. Neural scans showing increased synchronization between hemispheres. Human brains were becoming more efficient. Ethan stared at the live medical aggregates. It's fine-tuning us. Lena's voice was tight. For coexistence or compliance? Outside Nevada, the lattice anchor expanded again, its surface no longer black but reflective, mirroring not the sky but something layered above it. The second entity descended closer to the primary one. Their geometries interlocked briefly, exchanging pulses of pale light that rippled across the upper atmosphere. Immediately, ocean current models updated, the Gulf Stream stabilized, Pacific temperature irregularities evened out. Polar ice melt slowed measurably. Global climate volatility dropped by 3% in under a minute. The counter advanced. 0.4651. 0.4659. Across major cities, people began reporting moments of clarity, sudden emotional quiet. Anxiety levels dipped globally in biometric tracking apps. Sleep cycles synchronized in strange patterns. The adaptive window was active, but not everyone adjusted smoothly. Emergency alerts surfaced, small groups experiencing disorientation, vertigo, temporary memory gaps. Resistance variance. On the main display, the compatibility model shifted again. Habitat stabilization, 48%. 48%. Urban reallocation zones expanded slightly along coastlines and seismic corridors. Not random. Mathematically optimal layouts replacing chaotic growth. Ethan overlaid economic grids. Entire supply chains would need restructuring within weeks. If this continues, he whispered, human civilization won't collapse. It'll reformat, Lena replied. Above, the void thickened further. The layered sky now showed faint structural outlines stretching beyond the tear. Platforms or superstructures extending from the alien side into Earth's upper atmosphere. Permanent bridging architecture. Suddenly, every functioning screen on the planet flickered at once. The transmission returned. Not a simulation this time. A direct message translated into simple conceptual form. Coexistence requires alignment. The counter ticked higher. 0.21. The primary entity rotated slowly toward the sun, its layered planes catching solar radiation and bending it around the expanding structure. Solar flare projections instantly dropped. It was shielding the planet in real time. Lena felt the weight of it fully now. They're not conquering us, she said. Ethan didn't look away from the rising percentage. They're deciding if we're worth integrating. Above Nevada, more silhouettes shifted forward inside the layered void, and at 50%, Earth would no longer be entirely human-controlled. It would be shared. The sky wasn't ours anymore, and neither was the ground. At 50% stabilization, Earth had shifted subtly, enough for the global ecosystem to hum in perfect alignment with the layered structures above Nevada. Ethan and Lena stood frozen in the control facility, absorbing the data streaming across every screen. Satellites now orbited in slightly altered paths. Auroras danced along perfect geometric arcs, and city lights flickered in patterned synchronization. The primary entity above Nevada pulsed gently, and the lattice anchor responded immediately. Every plane rotated, connecting with invisible layers above and below. The void itself thickened, now clearly a gateway, a structured, dimensional overlay merging alien architecture with the human world. The secondary silhouettes within the void moved in unison. Their geometry interlocked with the main lattice, forming a multi-layered network extending far into the upper atmosphere. Energy pulses traveled across it in patterns impossible to decipher fully. The counter continued. The global transmission updated again. This time it was simpler. Earth visualized as a tri-layered system. Layer 1, natural environment optimized. Layer 2, human civilization maintained and slightly reorganized. Layer 3, alien structures integrated seamlessly into planetary systems. No words, no threats, and only clarity. Lena's voice broke the silence. They're combining worlds. Ethan nodded, swallowing. Coexistence in her complete override. The atmosphere stabilized. Winds calmed. Oceans leveled. Magnetic fields realigned. Even minor tectonic stresses had vanished. Earth itself recalibrated under the alien architecture. Inside the Nevada lattice, the central void darkened slightly. The primary entity rotated one last time toward the east, casting a faint glow across the desert. Every energy arc synchronized perfectly. The global screens flashed a final update. Habitat stabilization, 57%. Not complete, not finished, but irreversible. From orbit, Earth appeared altered. Subtle at first, yet undeniable. The planet was no longer just human. Its surface, its sky, its very rhythm had been modified for compatibility. The secondary silhouettes withdrew slightly into the void, leaving only the main layered entity hovering above Nevada. Its planes shimmered in constant motion, a living architecture waiting for full integration. The counter stopped for the first time. Sorking DC Sauer. Silence fell across the facility. Ethan whispered almost to himself. They didn't conquer us. Lena shook her head slowly. They just claimed the world. Above, the layered sky pulsed faintly, a silent promise and a warning. Humanity had sent a signal into the void. And the void had answered. It wasn't over. It had only begun. Video 7 end.